Rain pours over a lonely auto shop as a poor mechanic kneels beside a stranger's broken leg brace, fixing it with trembling hands. She offers money, he refuses with a smile. Some things you don't charge for. A month later, cameras swarm his shop, and the woman he helped steps out of a limousine. The night was heavy with rain, the kind that turns every streetlight into a blur of gold and sorrow. Inside a small, oil-stained garage on the edge of town, Tom Reyes wiped the grease from his hands and sighed. Another long day fixing other people's cars, another night wondering if he'd make rent. The sign above the door flickered weakly, Reyes Auto Care, as if it too was tired. He reached for the switch to close up when he heard it, the faint crunch of gravel, the sound of someone limping. A woman appeared in the doorway, soaked to the bone, one hand clutching her thigh, the other gripping a small purse. Her car had broken down a mile up the road, she said softly, but it wasn't just the car. Her leg brace had snapped clean through. Tom rushed to grab a chair, helping her sit by the workbench. The shop smelled of engine oil and wet asphalt, but his voice was calm, kind, steady. "You sit tight. Let me take a look at that." He studied the damaged brace like it was a puzzle, then began rummaging through drawers for spare metal parts and screws. The rain tapped gently against the tin roof as he worked, hands trembling from fatigue but moving with purpose. She watched him silently, surprised by the focus and care in his every movement. Within minutes, he had rebuilt the joint, stronger, steadier, whole again. When he handed it back, she blinked through tears. "How much do I owe you?" Tom smiled, shaking his head. "Some things you don't charge for, ma'am. You needed help. That's payment enough." She looked at him like no one ever had before, like she'd just been reminded there were still good people left in the world. "Thank you," she whispered, fastening the brace and standing tall again. He shrugged it off with quiet humility, wiping his hands once more. "Just try to get home safe. Roads are rough out there tonight." As she stepped into the storm, headlights cutting through the rain, Tom stood by the doorway watching until she disappeared. He didn't know her name. He didn't know that one small act of kindness was about to turn his whole life upside down. The narrator's voice softens over the sound of thunder. Sometimes the smallest repair can change more than metal. It can change a destiny. If you believe kindness still matters in this world, stay till the end of this story. What happens next will make you believe in miracles again. Morning sunlight crept through the thin curtains of a modest kitchen, falling on stacks of unpaid bills beside a chipped coffee mug. Tom sat there quietly, stirring his drink, his daughter Leela across from him scribbling homework before school. The house was small, barely holding the sounds of their daily life. The ticking clock, the sputtering fridge, the distant hum of cars outside. It wasn't much, but to Tom it was home. Every morning started the same. Coffee, silence, and hope that maybe today the shop would bring in enough to cover what they owed. Tom Reyes wasn't always a mechanic. Once, he'd worn a suit and carried a briefcase, working as an engineer for a manufacturing company. But when the company downsized, his position was cut, and the dream life he'd built for his family vanished overnight. Instead of giving up, he turned to what he knew best, fixing things. Cars, generators, even bicycles. He rented a small garage on the outskirts of town. And for the past 5 years, he'd been patching together an honest living with grease, grit, and faith. People in the neighborhood knew him well. Old Mr. Harlan said, "Tom's the only man who will fix your car and give you a sandwich if you look hungry." Single mothers came to him when their brakes failed, teenagers when their first cars sputtered out. Sometimes they paid, sometimes they couldn't, but Tom never turned anyone away. "Engines are easy," he'd tell them. "People are harder. Let's fix both." Still, kindness didn't pay the rent. The shop's roof leaked every time it rained, his mother's medicine kept getting more expensive, and Leela's dream of college seemed to drift farther away. Yet, even with hands cracked from oil and eyes weary from long nights, Tom never complained. There was quiet pride in the way he carried himself, a man beaten down by life but never broken. After the mysterious woman left that stormy night, Tom barely thought about her again. To him, it was just another person who needed help. But sometimes, late at night, he remembered the look in her eyes, gratitude mixed with disbelief, and he wondered why such a small act had seemed to mean so much. He didn't know that a world far wealthier than his own had taken notice. He didn't know that somewhere in the city, behind glass towers and polished desks, his name was being remembered by someone powerful. For now, he only knew the sound of the morning bell, the scent of motor oil, and the belief that good things come to those who do good, even when no one is watching. Downtown, glass skyscrapers shimmered beneath the morning sun. Inside one of them, a woman in an elegant navy suit limped slightly as she stepped into her office. It was Emily Carter, the same woman Tom had helped on that stormy night. Her assistants greeted her with polite smiles, unaware that the metal brace beneath her tailored pants had been repaired not by a doctor, but by a humble mechanic miles away. She sat behind a massive desk overlooking the city and stared at the brace for a long moment, tracing the tiny, mismatched screws he had used. They weren't perfect, but they held strong. Stronger than the custom piece she'd worn before. Emily wasn't just anyone. She was a leading orthopedic surgeon, known for her breakthroughs in prosthetics and rehabilitation. Her family owned Carter Medical Technologies, one of the most powerful healthcare corporations in the country. But despite her success, she carried her own quiet loneliness, a world of money, perfection, and polished smiles that often forgot what real care looked like. The night she met Tom, drenched and limping on that desolate road, she had been volunteering at a free clinic, something she rarely had time to do anymore. And when that simple mechanic had helped her without question, refusing payment, something inside her had shifted. Her father, Richard Carter, entered the office with his usual commanding presence. "Emily, the investors want an update on the new prosthetic line," he said, scanning his tablet. "And don't forget the gala tonight, the press will be there." She nodded absently, still looking at her leg brace. "Dad, do you ever think about people who actually fix things just because it's right?" she asked. He chuckled. "People like that don't get far in this world, sweetheart. You help when there's profit in it." That's how things work. Emily turned away, a quiet determination in her eyes. "Maybe that's what's wrong with the world," she murmured. After he left, she opened her laptop and searched the name she'd seen painted on the shop wall that night, Ray's Auto Care. The website was outdated, the contact number handwritten on a faded photo, but the image of Tom smiling beside his daughter made her heart ache. She couldn't forget his words, "Some things you don't charge for." That night, as the city glittered beneath her window, Emily sat alone, watching the rain start again. Somewhere out there, a man with nothing had given her more than money ever could. And for the first time in years, she felt like doing something that didn't come with a price tag. The weeks rolled by and life at Ray's Auto Care grew harder. The hum of engines that once filled the small shop grew quiet. Across the street, a new corporate auto center had opened, bright, modern, with a neon sign that screamed discounts and free oil changes. One by one, Tom's regular customers began drifting there. It wasn't that they didn't trust him anymore. It was that times were tough and money was tighter than loyalty. Tom understood. He always did. But that didn't make the silence easier to bear. Each morning, he swept the floor, checked the mailbox, and opened the door to an empty lot. His mother's medical bills stacked higher on the counter. Leela tried to hide the letters from the university, but he saw them: final notice, tuition due. He told her not to worry, forcing a smile. "We'll figure it out, kiddo. We always do." But late at night, when the shop was dark and the rain drummed softly on the roof, Tom sat by the workbench, hands folded, staring at the same empty calendar, praying for a miracle he couldn't afford to ask for. One afternoon, as he was closing early to visit his mother, an old delivery van broke down right in front of his shop. The driver, a young man barely 20, stumbled out, panicked. "Sir, I gotta get this package to the hospital before noon. I can't afford a tow." Tom looked at the clock, then at the trembling kid. Without thinking twice, he grabbed his tools. "Pop the hood," he said. Within 20 minutes, the engine was running again. The driver reached into his pocket, pulling out crumpled bills. Tom waved them off. "Save it, just drive safe." As the van sped off, the street fell quiet again. Tom wiped his hands and leaned against the door frame, exhaustion heavy in his chest. He knew he couldn't keep doing this, helping for free when he couldn't even help himself, but it was who he was. He couldn't change that. That night, over a simple dinner, Leela looked at him with worried eyes. "Dad, what if we sell the shop?" He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "And do what? Stop being who we are?" She didn't answer. She just nodded quietly, understanding the weight of his pride. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, and the first drops of rain began to fall again. Tom looked out the window, unaware that somewhere out there, the same woman he'd once helped was driving back into his life, this time not by accident, but by choice. The rain had just stopped when Tom heard the soft chime of the shop door. He looked up from under the hood of an old pickup, expecting a customer, but instead found her standing there again. The woman from that stormy night, Emily, though this time she wasn't dressed in business attire or limping. She wore jeans, a simple sweater, and a smile that seemed out of place among the grease and dust of his garage. "Thought I'd stop by," she said casually, holding a paper bag and 2 cups of coffee. Tom blinked in surprise, wiping his hands on a rag. "You again," he said with a chuckle. "Car trouble already." "Maybe," she teased, setting the coffee on the counter. "Or maybe I just wanted to thank you properly. Last time I was too soaked to be human." Her tone was warm, disarming. She offered him one of the cups. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, a small luxury in his world. He tried to refuse the pastries she'd brought, but she insisted. "Come on, everyone deserves breakfast that doesn't come from a vending machine." They sat on overturned crates near the open bay door, sunlight spilling in. Conversation came easily. She asked about his work, his life, his daughter. He didn't share much, but she could see the fatigue in his eyes, the quiet resilience that never turned bitter. When she complimented his kindness, he shrugged. "I just fix what's broken. Cars, things, sometimes people. It's what I know." Emily smiled faintly. "You'd be surprised how rare that is where I come from." He looked at her curiously, but she didn't elaborate. Instead, she stood and examined the walls lined with faded photos of customers, his mother, and a younger Leela holding a wrench twice her size. "You've built something good here," she said softly. As she prepared to leave, she turned back to him. "Tom, why didn't you take the money that night?" He hesitated, then replied, "Because not everything needs a price tag. If you start measuring kindness in dollars, it stops being kindness." Her eyes softened, and she nodded. "You remind me of someone who once healed me when I didn't even ask." He didn't understand, but her words lingered long after she drove away. Tom watched her car disappear down the road, coffee cup still warm in his hands. Something about her visit felt different, purposeful. He didn't know it yet, but this was the moment his quiet life began to turn toward something far bigger than he could imagine. 2 weeks passed before the envelope arrived. It was thick, cream-colored, with his name written in elegant lettering, Thomas Ray's Auto Care. Tom turned it over in his hands, half expecting it to be another bill. Instead, the seal bore a logo he didn't recognize, Carter Medical Technologies. Inside was a formal letter, the kind printed on expensive paper that smelled faintly of ink and importance. He read the first line twice before he could breathe. "Congratulations, Ray's Auto Care has been selected for a partnership with the Carter Foundation's Community Revive program." His brow furrowed. It had to be a mistake. That afternoon, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was calm and familiar. "Tom, it's Emily Carter." He froze, nearly dropping the phone. She explained that her family's foundation was launching an initiative to support small, honest businesses that make a difference in their communities, and his name had come up. He tried to laugh it off. "Ma'am, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a mechanic trying to pay rent." But she insisted, her tone both gentle and firm. "No, Tom. You're the reason we're doing this. You helped me when you didn't have to. Now it's my turn." A week later, she returned to the shop, but this time she wasn't alone. Her father came with her, dressed in a tailored suit, accompanied by 2 men from the press and a local news crew. Tom stood frozen as the cameras rolled, trying to make sense of it all. Emily stepped forward, smiling. "Everyone, this is Tom Reyes. He reminded me that compassion still exists in places we least expect. His shop will be the first in our program to receive full modernization support." Tom stammered, eyes wide, I didn't do anything special." Emily shook her head. "That's what makes it special." Her father extended a hand, his voice low. "My daughter doesn't stop talking about you, Mr. Reyes. She says you fixed her leg brace better than any specialist she knows." The crowd chuckled softly, and Tom's face reddened. The cameras captured everything: his shock, his humility, his disbelief. Reporters asked questions, but all he could say was, "I just did what anyone would have done." By sunset, his shop was buzzing again. Neighbors stopped by to congratulate him, and for the first time in months, laughter filled the air. As he watched Emily drive away, Tom stood under the fading light, realization dawning like sunrise. A single act of kindness had just rewritten the course of his entire life. In the months that followed, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Where there had once been flickering lights and rusted tools, Ray's Auto Care now gleamed with polished floors, new hydraulic lifts, and bright signage that could be seen from blocks away. The partnership with the Carter Foundation had not only revived Tom's business, it had breathed life into the entire neighborhood. Young apprentices from the local high school now filled the shop, eager to learn under his steady hands. The sound of laughter and clanking wrenches replaced the silence that used to haunt the place. But despite the new machines and steady flow of customers, Tom hadn't changed. He still arrived before sunrise, still poured 2 cups of coffee, one for himself, one for whoever might need it. Every Friday, he started a tradition he called Free Repair Fridays. Those who couldn't afford service could walk in and leave with their cars fixed, no questions asked. When one of the apprentices asked why he did it, Tom smiled. "Because somebody once told me that real success is being able to help without keeping score." Leela couldn't stop smiling these days. The Partnership Scholarship Fund had paid her tuition in full, and she was now attending her dream university, studying mechanical engineering, just like her father once had. His mother's medications were delivered every month, fully covered. For the first time in years, Tom didn't have to choose between doing good and surviving. He could finally do both. Emily visited often, though she never came with cameras or assistants anymore. She'd stop by with coffee, roll up her sleeves, and ask to learn something new. Sometimes she'd stay for hours, talking with Tom about his philosophy on work and life. One afternoon, while watching him show a teenager how to change a timing belt, she said softly, "You know, Tom, you've turned this place into more than a repair shop. You've turned it into a reminder." He looked up curious. "A reminder of what?" "That kindness is contagious," she said, "and you started an epidemic." He laughed, shaking his head. "If that's true, I hope there's no cure." The sun dipped low, painting the sky in orange and gold. Tom stood outside his shop, watching families drive by, the new sign glowing proudly above him. It no longer just said Ray's Auto Care, it read, in smaller letters underneath, "A place that fixes more than cars." The day was quiet when Tom finally stood alone in his shop again, long after the apprentices had gone home. The air smelled faintly of oil and fresh paint, but the silence was peaceful now, not heavy like it used to be. He leaned against the workbench, looking around at what his little garage had become. There were new tools, new faces, new stories, but the same old heart. In the corner sat the original toolbox he'd used since the beginning, dented and rusted, a reminder of where it all started. He ran his hand across it and smiled. A camera crew had come earlier to film a follow-up for the Foundation's program. When they asked how it felt to be a local hero, Tom had laughed. "I'm not a hero," he'd said. "I just fix what's broken." But as he thought about it now, he realized maybe that was the secret. Maybe fixing things, no matter how small, was its own kind of heroism. He sat down on the stool, staring out the open door at the setting sun. The street glowed orange, and kids on bikes sped past, waving as they shouted, "Hey, Mr. Reyes!" He waved back, heart full. His mother was healthier now, Leela thriving at school. Emily's visits had become a quiet part of his routine: coffee in the mornings, good conversations in the evenings. Sometimes, she'd stand beside him while he worked, and together they'd laugh at how fate had thrown two completely different lives into the same storm. Tom thought about that night, the rain, the broken brace, the choice he never questioned. What if he had turned her away? What if kindness had been replaced by hesitation or pride? He would still be struggling in silence, never knowing how much one act could ripple through the world. He wiped his hands and whispered to himself, "It really doesn't cost anything to care." Outside, the last light of the day faded into dusk, and for a moment, he felt something larger than gratitude, something like peace. The narrator's voice fades in softly. Sometimes the smallest kindness can echo louder than a lifetime of words. When you help someone without expecting anything back, you don't just fix their day, you fix a piece of the world. If this story touched your heart, take it as a sign. Be someone's mechanic. Help fix what's broken, no matter how small. Share this story, spread the reminder, kindness is still out there, waiting for hands like yours. A month later, the story of Ray's Auto Care had spread far beyond the small town. News outlets called it the mechanic's miracle, and videos of Tom's humble acceptance speech at the foundation ceremony had gone viral. Yet, in every interview, he said the same thing: "I didn't save anyone. I just did what I hoped someone would do for me." While others saw fame, he saw a simple truth. The world had been starving for reminders that decency still mattered. And somehow, by doing the right thing when no one was watching, he had become that reminder. One afternoon, Tom stood outside the shop, watching a young boy struggle with a flat bicycle tire. Instead of calling for help, Tom walked over, knelt beside him, and fixed it within minutes. The boy's mother offered to pay, but he just smiled. "Keep it," he said softly. "Buy him an ice cream instead." She blinked, almost embarrassed by his generosity. "You're too kind," she whispered. Tom chuckled. "Nah, I just remember what it feels like to be stuck." Inside the shop, the apprentices had hung a new quote on the wall: "You never know who you're helping, you never know who's watching." It became their motto. Emily had sent it to them after watching him work one morning, and it stayed like a silent heartbeat, reminding everyone why they were there. That night, Tom closed the garage early and sat outside, watching the horizon fade into deep blue. He thought about how strange life was, how the same rain that once soaked him in despair had washed something new into his path. He thought about the woman whose leg he had fixed without question, and how she had given him more than he could ever repay. Not money, not fame, but faith. The narrator's voice comes in quietly over soft music. In a world that often forgets the power of small kindness, one man's simple act became a beacon. Not because he wanted to be noticed, but because he acted when it was easiest to look away. Cars passed by, their headlights glowing in the dusk, each reflection catching the words painted beneath his sign, "Fixing more than cars." Tom smiled at the sight, hands in his pockets, heart full. The world outside still rushed, still hurried, still forgot. But inside this little corner, kindness had found a home, and it would keep burning quietly, like a light that refused to go out. The years rolled forward, but the little garage at the edge of town never lost its heartbeat. The new sign gleamed brighter, the walls held more laughter, and the name Ray's Auto Care became a symbol of hope. Tom stood outside one crisp morning, his gray hair catching the sunlight, as a group of new apprentices arrived for their first day. They were nervous, just like he once was, holding their toolboxes like fragile dreams. "You're not here to fix cars," he told them with a grin. "You're here to fix what life breaks." They didn't understand it yet, but they would. Inside, the shop buzzed with energy. A local reporter interviewed him again for a documentary about everyday heroes. Tom spoke quietly, eyes humble. "Kindness isn't complicated," he said. "You just do the next right thing, that's all." The clip later went viral, not because of flashy words, but because of the sincerity behind them. People from around the world began writing letters, telling him how his story made them help strangers, forgive family, or volunteer for the first time. Tom read every single one. Emily, now running her father's foundation, visited that afternoon. She parked the same car she'd driven that first stormy night and walked into the shop like it was home. Tom smiled when he saw her. "Still holding together?" he teased, pointing to her brace. She laughed. "Better than ever, thanks to you." Together they walked through the shop, watching young mechanics learning, people smiling, the world quietly changing around them. "You fixed me, you know," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, Emily. You fixed me." The sun dipped low as they stood by the door, the sign glowing in the amber light. Emily looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you ever think about how one night changed everything?" Tom nodded slowly. "I do, but I think what really changed wasn't my life, it was my faith in people. I just did one good thing. The rest took care of itself." As the narrator's voice returned, gentle and full of warmth, it said, "Sometimes, life gives us chances disguised as ordinary moments. A broken brace, a stormy night, a stranger's kindness. And if we choose compassion in that moment, the universe remembers." Tom flipped the sign on the door to closed and turned off the lights. Outside, the town shimmered under the stars. He looked up, smiled, and whispered, "Always fix what's broken." If this story moved you, let it move others too. Share it, live it, and remember, one act of kindness can rewrite a life, maybe even your own.